I was thinking about the last time I walked past a major demonstration in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific sensory experience, isn't it? You have the noise, obviously the chanting, the drum.
Energy, you can feel it.
Exactly. You have the visuals, this sea of hand-painted signs, the cardboard placards, maybe someone in a costume. It feels incredibly visceral.
It does. It feels like history happening in real time.
Right. And we have this very romanticized, almost cinematic idea of how that moment comes to be.
Mm-hmm.
We picture a group of people, sitting around a kitchen table, angry about an injustice, and they say, that's it, we're marching tomorrow.
And then boom.
And then boom, thousands of people flood the square. It's the ultimate expression of grassroots democracy, the voice of the people, raw and unfiltered.
It's the Les Miserables image, right? The barricades going up spontaneously.
Right. But here is the uncomfortable question we are wrestling with today. And it's one that might ruin that romantic image for you.
It almost certainly will.
How much of what we see on the news, the outrage, the perfectly timed chants, the matching T-shirts, is actually organic?
Mm-hmm.
And how much of it is a product, a manufactured, purchased commodity, just like a pair of sneakers or a streaming subscription?
It is the defining question of the modern political landscape. We are living through an era where the line between genuine organic outrage and manufactured dissent isn't just blurry.
No.
It has been completely erased by a flood of capital.
We are peeling back the curtain on what we're calling the protest industry. And to be clear, we aren't just talking about some conspiracy theory involving a few paid actors.
No, this is much bigger than that.
You're peeling back the layers of a massive, sophisticated business sector. We're looking at the 2024 to 2026 landscape where dissent has been professionalized.
And we're going to look at everything. We're talking the No Kings protests, the dark money networks that are moving billions of dollars, and even the cinematic propaganda that's replacing traditional campaigning.
So the central question we're trying to answer for you today is this. Is freedom of assembly still a civil right?
Right.
Or has it become a luxury product that only the ultra-wealthy and the well-connected can afford to purchase?
And to answer that, we have to look at the receipts. Because in 2026, Revolution has a budget.
And it is a very steep one.
A very steep one.
It is. But before we get to the spreadsheets, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The immediate context for this entire discussion is the No Kings protest.
Right. This is the event scheduled for October 18th. If you've been on social media at all in the last few weeks, you've seen the ads. You can't miss them.
And the organizers are selling this as the big one. They claim it's a nonviolent mass movement against authoritarianism. They are predicting crowds in the millions. They're comparing it to the largest civil rights marches in history.
That is the official narrative. We are the resistance. We are organic. We are the people. But then you have to look at the industry perspective.
Okay.
For that, we turn to someone like Adam Swart.
Adam Swart. He's the CEO of a company called Crowds on Demand. Now, I have to stop you there.
I thought you might.
Crowds on Demand. That sounds like a satire. That sounds like something out of a dystopian novel.
It's incredibly literal, isn't it? But it's a real business, a crowd-for-hire firm.
So you can literally order a crowd.
You can. For anything from a fake paparazzi swarm for an influencer to, well, this. Swart recently spoke to Fox News about this upcoming No Kings event, and he didn't mince words. He called it a dud in the making.
A dud in the making. Why would he call a protest with millions of expected attendees a dud?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Swart claims his company was actually approached to participate.
What, to provide protesters?
Essentially, yes. The organizers or their proxies reached out to invite him to provide paid bodies to boost the numbers.
Wait, let's pause and really look at that. A movement that claims to be the spontaneous voice of the people tried to hire a temp agency for protesters.
According to Swart, yes. And he declined the offer.
Why? I mean, if that's his business model, why turn down the check?
He said it wasn't just a scheduling conflict. He warned that there are forces making money off chaos. He pointed out that these events are increasingly being exploited by agitators and interest groups where the conflict is the product.
The conflict is the product.
Exactly. The goal isn't resolution, it's the fight itself. He said he didn't want his people in the middle of a situation that was, in his view, designed to be volatile.
But isn't there a risk that Swart is just trying to get headlines? I mean, claiming paid protesters is a common trope to dismiss real anger. People say that all the time to invalidate a movement they don't like.
It is a common trope, and we should be skeptical, absolutely. But Swart dropped a statistic that suggests this isn't just an isolated incident.
Okay.
He claims that under the current political climate, requests for paid protesters across the industry are up 400%.
100%.
That is not a marginal increase. That is an industry boom. That's a gold rush. When you have a 400% spike in demand for manufactured crowds, you have to ask yourself, when I turn on the news and see a protest, what am I actually looking at?
Right.
Is it a movement or is it a commercial?
That is the Matrix moment right there. So here's our mission for this deep dive. We are not taking sides. We aren't looking at this as left versus right or Democrat versus Republican.
No, that's a distraction. That's what they want you to focus on. If you focus on the ideology, you miss the mechanism.
We are following the money. We are going to analyze what we're calling the political economy of narrative control.
Yep.
We are going to look at the literal cost of a permit in Manhattan. We're going to look at the salary of a professional agitator. We're going to look at the billions with a B in dark money that fuels this machine.
And we're going to look at how Hollywood and even the government itself have merged into this ecosystem. It's a complex machine, but when you take it apart, the mechanics are just, they're fascinating.
So let's start with the basics. Let's get practical. Let's say I'm angry. I'm fired up about a local issue. I want to organize a protest in Manhattan next week.
Okay.
I want 10,000 people there to make a statement. In my head, I just need a megaphone, a Twitter account, and some passion.
In your head, yes. In reality,
Yeah.
you need a chief financial officer.
Okay, break it down for me. What is the balance sheet of a riot? What does it actually cost?
We have data from a report titled The Political Influence Industry that analyzes the projected operational budget for a single one-day event in Manhattan. And this is for 10,000 people.
Just one day, not an occupation, not a week-long sit-in, just one afternoon.
Just one afternoon. If you want to do this legally, and that's the key word, legally, meaning you don't want your movement crushed by mass arrests in the first hour.
Right.
You are looking at a total minimum budget of between $179,844 and $245,844.
$250,000.
Minimum.
For people to stand on the street, that seems impossible. Where's that money going?
It goes to the infrastructure of legitimacy. Let's look at the line items, because this is where the romance of the grassroots really dies.
I'm ready.
First, you have the comments.
But the right to assemble is free, isn't it? The First Amendment doesn't have a cover charge.
The Constitution is free. The City of New York is not. The base permit fee for a nonprofit is, on paper, around $8,400.
Okay, $8,000. That's a lot, but it's not $250,000.
But that's just the sticker price. That's what gets you in the door. When you factor in the Street Activity Permit Office, that's SAPO, plus the NYPD fees for traffic control and security details, plus the daily setup surcharges,
It all stacks up.
the total permitting costs range from $25,000 to $31,000.
$30,000 just for the permission slip.
Just for the piece of paper that says you're allowed to be there. And you can't get that permission slip without insurance.
Liability insurance for a protest. Who are you insuring against? What does that even mean?
The city requires it to protect itself from lawsuits. If someone trips over a sound cable, if a window gets broken accidentally, the city wants to know if someone else is paying for it, not them.
So it's to protect the city, not the protesters.
Exactly. For a crowd of 10,000, you need custom underwriting. You can't just buy this off the shelf like car insurance.
Wow.
That's going to run you a minimum of about $4,500, but often much more depending on the risk profile of your group.
I assume risk profile is insurance speak for how angry are the people you're inviting.
Precisely. If your group has a history of, let's call it, spirited engagement, your premiums go way up.
Okay, so permits, insurance.
Yeah.
What else?
Then you have security.
But isn't that what the police are for? I see police at protests all the time. A lot of them.
The police are there to enforce the law and protect the city's property. They're not there to protect you. They are there to contain you.
Right.
If you want to protect your VIPs, your speakers on stage, or even just maintain order within your own crowd so things don't spiral into violence from, say, a counter-protest.
You're on your own.
You hire private security. Professional security teams for an event this size cost between $25,000 and $40,000 per day.
It's Starting to sound less like a protest and more like a music festival.
Well, functionally, it is a music festival without the music. You need sound, don't you?
I guess you do.
You can't just shout at 10,000 people. You need staging, amplifiers, generators, technicians to run it all. That's a $15,000 line item right there.
And it just keeps adding up.
And here is my favorite, the most bureaucratic one of all, sanitation.
Cleaning up.
The NYC Department of Sanitation has a recommendation for this. You have to budget for the cleanup. All those signs, the water bottles, someone has to pay to haul it away. Even that is hundreds of dollars. It all adds up.
So if I don't have $200,000 lying around, I'm basically silenced.
Or you do it illegally.
Which people do. I mean, spontaneous protests happen all the time. They seem to.
They do, but that brings us to the regulatory maze. This is where the system really filters out the spontaneous uprisings. It's not just the money, it's the time.
How so? What do you mean?
It's the time barrier. According to the NYPD permitting rules, if you want a parade permit for more than 1,000 people, which isn't even that big in New York terms.
1,000 people is nothing there.
Right. You generally need to submit your application 9 months in advance.
9 months.
9 months.
Protests are usually reactive. Something happens today, and I'm angry today. I can't schedule my outrage for next February. Save the date for my anger. It's absurd.
And that is the point. That is the structural barrier. This regulatory structure prioritizes institutional, well-funded groups that have a calendar, groups that have a budget. If you are a giant NGO or a political party, you plan your outrage a year in advance, you book the permit, you pay the fees.
And if I'm just a regular person who wants to march tomorrow because of a breaking news story?
You can try, but you risk being declared an unlawful assembly. And that leads to mass arrests.
Which brings us to the legal risks. I saw a source about New York City agreeing to multi-million-dollar settlements for past protests.
Yes. The city has paid out settlements reaching up to $10 million for unlawful mass arrests in previous years. Cases where they corralled protesters, a tactic called kettling, and arrested them without proper cause.
So doesn't that prove the system works, in a way? The protesters got paid, justice was served.
Eventually, years later, after lengthy court battles. But think about the immediate effect. For the city, a $10 million settlement is just a budget line item.
The cost of doing business.
It's the cost of doing business. For a grassroots organizer, facing a class action lawsuit or needing to bail out 500 people is an impossibility. You need lawyers on retainer just to march.
So the spontaneous protest is a myth because the legal and financial infrastructure required to hold one makes spontaneity basically impossible.
Effectively, yes, unless you are willing to face immediate arrest, bankruptcy, and years of litigation. The system is designed for the protest industry, not for the individual protester.
Okay, let's pivot to the people themselves. We talked about Adam Swart and crowds on demand, this idea of the crowd for hire. I think for a long time, people dismissed the paid protester idea as a conspiracy theory.
Right.
It sounds like something your crazy uncle posts on Facebook.
It did sound that way. But now it's not a conspiracy. It's a service industry. It's the human capital side of the equation.
Swart mentioned he was offered $20 million once.
$20 million? It's an incredible figure.
$20 million to recruit protesters for anti-Trump demonstrations. He says he declined it, but just the fact that the offer existed, that's a staggering amount of money.
It shows the scale of the market. There are entities, wealthy donors, political action committees willing to drop 8 figures just to simulate public opinion.
To create the appearance of a movement.
Exactly. And Swart describes an entire ecosystem. You have consultants, you have operatives, you have influencers who build their entire personal brand on outrage.
It's a career path.
Yeah.
You can major in activism and get a job in the industry.
It is. Swart calls it performative activism. It's built to attract funding, followers, and media engagement. It's not about persuasion anymore. It's about the spectacle. And the costs for the people running that spectacle are skyrocketing due to something we're calling the Luigi effect.
The Luigi effect?
Yeah.
Okay, explain this. This stems from the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Suspect was Luigi Mangione.
Correct. That event, which was obviously a horrific crime, triggered a massive psychological shift in how corporate and political elites view their own safety during public events.
It made the threat feel real.
Suddenly, standing on a stage or walking through a crowd felt a lot more dangerous. The threat wasn't an abstract tweet anymore. It was visceral. It was real.
And the market responded.
Aggressively. Requests for personal security surge. We're not talking about your mall cops. We're talking about elite-level agents, people with Secret Service or Special Forces backgrounds.
Up the line.
The best you can get. They cost $250 an hour.
$250 an hour.
Per agent. And you don't hire one. You hire a team. A 10-man team for a high-profile figure costs $30,000 a day.
30 grand a day just for bodyguards.
So if you are a high-profile speaker at one of these No Kings protests, or maybe a controversial counter-protester, the security bill alone is astronomical.
It really reinforces that idea that this is an industry. You have the paid crowd, you have the paid security protecting the paid speakers.
And you have the paid organizers running the show. We looked at the salary data for professional activists.
And is it lucrative? Can you make a good living being angry?
It can be. Top-tier organizers are earning around $55,000 to $60,000 a year, which is a decent living. But the policy writers,
The people behind the scenes.
the people crafting the specific demands and the press releases, they are commanding over $104,000.
So you can make six figures writing protest slogans.
If you're good at it and you know the right people, yes. And there's a geographic disparity, too. Activists in places like, say, Kentville or Victoria, which are hubs of this activity, can earn roughly 49% above the national average. It's a professional class.
I want to touch on something else from the data, the cost per activist. This sounds like marketing jargon.
It is marketing jargon because that's what this is. Modern campaigns use digital marketing funnels. They don't just hope you show up. They acquire you.
Like a customer. You hear about customer acquisition cost in business. This is the same thing.
Exactly the same principle. The cost per sign-up to get someone on an email list to become a digital activist is between $2 and $10.
Okay.
But look at the cost per required signature CPRS for ballot measures.
This is when they have someone standing outside the grocery store with a clipboard trying to get you to sign a petition.
Right, and those people are very often paid per signature. In 2020, the average cost to get one valid signature was $8.99.
Okay, that seems high, but maybe plausible.
In 2024, it jumped to $14.87.
That's nearly double in just 4 years.
And in a place like California, because the market is so saturated with these initiatives, it can hit $48 per signature.
$48 for one signature.
So think about that. To get a measure on the ballot or to mobilize a crowd, you are paying a premium acquisition cost for every single person. Mobilizing 10,000 people isn't magic. It is a $150,000 marketing acquisition strategy. At minimum.
It takes the romance right out of it, doesn't it? It feels so transactional, so cold.
It replaces romance with logistics. But you have to pay the bills. The outrage has overhead.
So we've got a $250,000 daily burn rate for the protest itself. We've got millions in security and acquisition costs. The big question is, where does all this money come from?
Right.
It's not coming from bake sales.
No. Welcome to the shadow bureaucracy.
This is the dark money, the part nobody wants to talk about.
This is the engine room.
Yeah.
And to understand it, we have to understand the difference between two very boring-sounding tax codes,
Yeah.
501c3 and 501c4.
Okay, unpack it for us, but keep it simple. I don't want our listeners falling asleep on the tax code.
I will make it as painless as possible. A 501c3 is your standard charity. Think Red Cross, think your local food bank.
What?
Donations are tax deductible, but they are strictly forbidden from intervening in political campaigns. They can't say, vote for Smith or defeat Jones.
Right. They have to stay neutral on candidates. They can talk about issues, but not people.
Exactly. Then you have the 501c4. This is a social welfare organization. The magic of the C4 is that they can engage in unlimited political advocacy as long as it isn't their primary purpose.
And let me guess, primary purpose is a very flexible, very gray area.
It's the loophole that ate democracy. Usually it's interpreted as less than 50% of their budget, but here is the key. This is the whole ballgame.
What's that?
Unlike a standard political committee, a 501c4 does not have to disclose its donors.
That's the dark money. Anonymity.
Exactly. It becomes the perfect vehicle for anonymous billionaires or corporations to funnel cash into the political system without leaving any fingerprints. And in the 2024 cycle, dark money reached a record high of $1.9 billion.
Almost $2 billion of untraceable money flowing through the system. Who are the big players here?
It's a bipartisan game. We have to be crystal clear on that. This is not a left-wing or a right-wing tactic. It's a power tactic.
Okay.
On the left, the 800-pound gorilla is the 1630 Fund.
Sounds like a secret society from a Dan Brown novel.
It might as well be. It's actually managed by a consulting firm called Arabella Advisors, and this network is massive. They had $1.2 billion in revenue in 2023.
$1 billion in 1 year.
And the 1630 Fund is incredibly effective. They poured money into ballot measures, things like securing reproductive rights in Montana or fighting gerrymandering in Ohio, and they had a 77.4% success rate.
That is a better win rate than most professional sports teams.
It is. And what they do is fascinating. They create what we call a narrative swarm.
A narrative swarm. Describe that for me.
Imagine you are a voter in Colorado. You see ads on TV from a group called Coloradans for Ballot Transparency. Then you get a flyer in the mail from Rocky Mountain Ethics Watch. Then a text on your phone from Denver Citizens for Truth.
It looks like a chorus of independent local voices. It looks like my neighbors are organizing. It feels organic.
But it's actually one conductor waving the baton. A centralized nonprofit in D.C., like the 1630 Fund, creates and funds these dozens of small local-sounding groups. It creates the appearance of widespread grassroots support.
But the money all traces back to one place.
But the funding is centralized and strategic. It's astroturfing on an industrial scale.
Wow. Okay, so that's one side. Who's on the other?
On the right, the heavyweight is Americans for Prosperity, which is the flagship of the Koch network.
The Koch brothers. We've heard about them for years.
They operate a bit differently, but to the same end. They focus on a permanent campaign infrastructure.
Meaning they never stop. It's not just around an election.
They have year-round field directors in states across the country. They aren't just popping up for elections. They are constantly building influence, lobbying state legislatures, and shaping policy from the ground up year after year. They also use other groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce or the American Action Network, run by Senator Norm Coleman, to move money and influence.
So you have these two leviathans, Arabella on one side, Koch on the other, basically waging a proxy war using billions of anonymous dollars.
And we, the people, are just the foot soldiers they're trying to acquire. We are the metrics in their spreadsheet. They are buying the narrative, and we are living inside it.
Now, this narrative control isn't just happening in the streets or in these dark money funds. It's moved to the big screen.
This is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a lot more subtle. We are seeing the rise of what we have to call cinematic propaganda.
Hollywood is a super PAC.
Essentially, yes. The big screen has become the new campaign trail. Political figures are realizing that a 2-hour movie is infinitely more powerful than a 30-second TV spot.
And you have two big case studies on this from our sources. Melania Trump and the Obamas.
Two very different approaches to the same goal.
Let's start with Melania. There was that documentary simply titled Melania.
Right. It was distributed by Amazon MGM, and the acquisition cost was reportedly $40 million.
$40 million for a documentary. That seems exceptionally high. Most docs go for a fraction of that, if they sell at all.
It's a huge number, and it raises questions about whether it was a pure content acquisition or something more. The director was Brett Ratner, who is a controversial figure in his own right.
And what was it about? What was the angle?
It was a very curated look at her life, featuring her staff, her makeup artist, her interior designer. It presented a very specific, very polished image of her time in the White House and after.
It sounds like a reality show with a blockbuster budget, a piece of brand management.
Critics panned it. They called it hagiography, a puff piece. But the ticket sales were strong. And here's the key data point from the polling. The audience was 49% Republican.
So it's preaching to the choir. It's not about persuading anyone new.
It's about reinforcing the brand. It's solidifying the base. It's a $40 million ad buy that people paid to watch. From a marketing perspective, that is a dream come true.
And then you have the Obamas with their company, Higher Ground Productions.
This is a different strategy, but arguably even more powerful. They signed a multi-year deal with Netflix. And look at the content they're producing. It's not just documentaries about themselves, like Becoming.
Right. Leave the World Behind. I watched that. It was a huge hit. And terrifying.
A scripted feature film starring Julia Roberts about civil strife and the collapse of society. It tapped into a very specific anxiety about the state of the world.
A very 2026 anxiety.
Exactly. Then you have The G Word, which is a comedy series about how government works. You have American Factory, which won an Oscar for Best Documentary.
It feels softer, more educational. Here is how the world works, but through their lens.
It's soft power. It's not a direct campaign ad saying vote Democrat. It's shaping the cultural conversation. It's framing how we understand government, how we understand capitalism, how we understand legacy. It's narrative control at the highest possible level of production value.
But there is also a legal shift that makes all of this more complicated, something called the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act.
This is critical, and very few people know about it. It sounds incredibly boring, but its implications are explosive.
Okay, explain it to us. What was the Smith-Mundt Act?
Okay. Back in 1948, the U.S. passed the Smith-Mundt Act. This was the height of the Cold War. We were creating propaganda to broadcast overseas Voice of America, Radio Free Europe.
Right, to fight the Soviets.
We wanted to influence hearts and minds in the Soviet bloc. But Congress at the time was very, very worried about the government using those same powerful propaganda tools on its own people.
They didn't want the government brainwashing Americans.
Yeah. Exactly. They saw what happened in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. So they built a legal firewall. The State Department and related agencies could broadcast propaganda abroad, but they were legally banned from disseminating it domestically within the United States.
So that firewall existed for decades. What changed?
In 2013, as part of a defense authorization bill, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was passed. It effectively removed that ban.
So the government can broadcast propaganda to Americans now, legally.
The argument for the change was that in the internet age, you can't stop information at the border anyway. If Voice of America puts something online, an American can see it. So they argued they were just modernizing the law to reflect reality.
Okay, that makes some sense.
But critics, and we have sources citing folks like Representative Thomas Massie, argue that this opened the door for taxpayer-funded fake news.
So content produced by the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which is explicitly designed to influence foreign populations, can now legally be pushed to and targeted at U.S. citizens.
Yes. And because there aren't strict attribution requirements in every context, meaning it doesn't always have a giant flashing sign saying, this is U.S. government propaganda, you might be seeing government-produced messaging and not even realize it. It completely blurs the line between independent news and a state-sponsored narrative.
That is deeply unsettling. We have private dark money, we have Hollywood soft power, and now we have potentially legal government propaganda targeting us.
And we haven't even talked about the foreign actors yet.
Right. Adam Swart, the crowds on demand guy, he warned about this specifically.
Yeah.
He said it's not just domestic money.
He called it a national security threat, and the evidence supports him. Look at the Tenet media scheme that was uncovered.
This was the Russian connection, right?
Yes. The Russian government spent $10 million to build a network of right-wing influencers in the U.S. They weren't just buying ads on Facebook. They were building an entire media company from scratch to push divisive narratives.
And it's not just Russia. This is a global tactic.
No. China has the 50 Cent Army.
Which sounds like a rap group, but I know it's not.
Far from it. It's a vast army of online commenters who are paid. Originally, the price was 50 cents per post, hence the name to flood social media sites.
And what's their goal?
Often it's distraction. If there's a protest in Hong Kong, they'll flood the hashtags with spam, with praise for the state, with celebrity gossip, anything to drown out the real dissent. And Iran is in the mix, too.
What's their strategy?
Iran uses disinformation to amplify divisive narratives here in the U.S. And this is the key point that Swart made, and it's crucial. The goal of these foreign actors isn't necessarily to help one side win.
It's to make us fight each other.
It's to pull America apart, to monetize chaos. If we are gridlocked and fighting each other in the streets, we are weaker on the global stage, and they are more than willing to pay for the gasoline to light that fire.
So we have this massive industrialized machine, billions of dollars, foreign influence, paid agitators. The question I have is, does it actually work? Does all this money and professionalization achieve anything? Or is it just expensive noise?
That brings us to what researchers call the activist's dilemma.
This is from the University of Toronto research, right?
Yes, and it's fascinating. Researchers found a paradox. When activists take extreme actions, blocking a major highway, disrupting an airport, throwing soup on paintings,
Things that grab headlines.
they get a huge amount of attention, which is the goal, right, to raise awareness.
Right.
But the research shows that these actions diminish popular support, even among people who would normally sympathize with the cause.
So you get on the evening news, but you lose the room. You alienate the people you need to convince.
Exactly. They ran experiments. They found that extreme anti-Trump protests in the past actually led some observers to support Trump more. It's a backlash effect. The disruption feels immoral or just plain annoying to the average person watching at home, and they recoil from the cause associated with it.
So the protest industry might be spending millions of dollars to organize events that actually hurt their own causes in the long run.
It's very possible. Because they are optimizing for metrics like media mentions and engagement, not for the much harder metric of actual persuasion. And in response, the government is getting smarter too.
How so?
They're responding to these extreme tactics with what we call critical infrastructure laws.
We've seen this with oil pipelines and things like that.
Yes. States are passing laws that designate things like fossil fuel pipelines, railways, or transportation hubs as critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
If you protest there and disrupt it, you don't just get a slap on the wrist for trespassing.
It's a much more serious charge.
You get hit with extreme fines, felony charges. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. It's a tactic of incapacitation by debt.
Incapacitation by debt.
Precisely. If you are a young activist or a small indigenous group, you can't afford a $50,000 fine. It's a way to bankrupt the movement without necessarily throwing everyone in prison. It raises the financial floor for dissent even higher.
We have covered a staggering amount of ground here. It's almost overwhelming. Let's try to summarize this machine for the listener.
It is a conglomerate reality. That's the best term I can think of for it.
I like that term, a conglomerate reality.
To have a voice in 2026 to really move the needle, you need a daily burn rate of over $200,000 just for the logistics of a single event. You need a digital acquisition strategy to buy your activists at $10 a head online or $48 a signature on the street. You need liability insurance and permits 9 months out.
And you need a shadow network of 501c4s moving billions of dollars behind the scenes to keep the lights on and the whole operation running.
It's an industry, a mature, high-stakes professional industry.
Which brings us to the final provocative thought. If you look at all of this, the cost, the legal barriers, the manufactured narratives, the foreign interference, what are we left with?
I think we are left with a chilling question about the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
We used to have this maybe naive belief that the best ideas would win out, that the truth would rise to the top through public debate. In a world where the cost per activist is a calculated metric on a spreadsheet, and where entire narratives are purchased via $40 million documentary deals or billion-dollar dark money funds, is freedom of assembly still a civil right?
Or has it become a luxury product?
A luxury product that only the best-funded organizations can afford to purchase. If you can't afford the permit, the insurance, the security, and the algorithmic marketing to get your message out, are you even hurt? Does your voice even exist in that marketplace?
That is the question we have to ask ourselves as we look at the news tonight.
It is.
Something to think about the next time you see a breaking news alert about a massive protest. Is it a movement or is it a marketing campaign?
A very important distinction.
Until next time, keep digging.
Keep digging.